the diversity. After you.
Okay, my name is Aaliyah. I go by Magical Black Girl Cosplay. It's a very long name. I've been cosplaying for 4 years now. I don't even know what to say. I work for purecostumes.com, so costuming is my life, and I'm dead right now because Halloween is coming and we're drowning, so hello.
Hello, my name is Lena, but on Instagram I go by Sweetheart Cosplays. I've been cosplaying for between 4 and 5 years. Right now I am taking classes in fashion design, and hopefully I'll be transferring down here soon.
Hello, my name is Tia, and I'm Grayscaled online on Instagram and every other thing. I've been cosplaying for like a little bit over a year. I'm like a baby, brand new to it, but I've been sewing forever, so I'm having a lot of fun.
Looking good.
This is my first panel, and I'm really excited.
Yeah, who else is this first panel? This is my first panel also.
This is my first big panel. Yeah, I've done like little ones before, like Titan Con and stuff like that. Yeah.
It's like my 4th panel, but like, I mean, I did one yesterday, and I guess that was my first big panel. My first panel was like me, my mom, and like 2 random people at a small con, so. But hey, supportive parents. So it all worked out. So, let's see here. While we still are waiting for a moderator.
Well, okay, I'll take over.
Yeah,
I'll take over. Just be a teacher. So what got you into cosplay, and why are you like trying to achieve a mission doing it? Is it for fun? Are you, some of you guys, you're fashion design, so what got you into it, and what is your goal as a cosplayer?
For me, I always was like a theater kid. So my favorite part about theater was the fact that I could be somebody else, be somebody completely different. Sometimes when you get into like, LA, like film casting, like you look like a type and you have to play that type. But for cosplay, you don't have to, even though if you look like a type, you don't have to be that type. Like, I am not born with blonde hair, I do not have blue eyes, but I still cosplaying Black Canary because I love her. So I just like cosplay because you can be people that necessarily you won't be pigeonholed to outside of the cosplay community. So that, and I really like dressing up, just period. So.
Okay, so I got into cosplay 4 years ago. I've always been a nerd, but I called myself a closet nerd until about freshman year of college, because it was just like, oh yeah, I'm like not a fan of all this stuff, but I secretly know everything about it. And I discovered cosplay. Well, first of all, I discovered Halloween because I wasn't allowed to celebrate growing up. So freshman year of college, I had my first Halloween, and I was like, we should do this all the time. And then I was like, I discovered conventions because I went also freshman year of college, and I was like, you can do this all the time. So I started, my first one was Han Solo. It was very easy. I just learned to sew because I was also a fashion major. And I realized when you put on a costume, like you become that character, and like I'm a shy person most of the time, and putting on a costume is just like you become that character, and it's just like I have confidence. I can sit here and talk in front of people because I'm not me anymore. I'm this character. I'm having fun. Everyone's really welcoming about it, and that's why I do what I do. Also, representation. The little black babies, the slide list.
I first got into cosplaying when one of my very, very, very dear friends was like, hey, you should come to this thing called FanimeCon with me. And I was like, first of all, what is that? Second of all, it sounds like a nightmare. But I got there and it was like a dream. I was like, all these people love the same things I do. They love putting on all these crazy costumes. They love wearing crazy wigs and putting on crazy makeup. And like at that time, I wasn't like super into makeup. I wasn't like super into wigs or like wearing crazy costumes, but just being in that atmosphere and kind of feeling that connection was so special to me. And it also kind of got me back into sewing, which I dabbled in a few years earlier. And now because of that, I'm in classes for fashion design.
So I started cosplaying because I had a lot of friends who were into cosplay, and we went to Medford last year. I went to my first con in Medford last year. It was like a free con. It was at a library. It was so fun. And after that, I was just like, I have to do this more often. So I went to like my second con, and this is I think my fourth con now. I've always been sewing, so I just like having a reason to practice that more and get it in a character. And I like the idea of being different characters. I'm hoping to like do every like Disney princess next year. So I'm really excited.
That's quite the goal.
Yeah.
Every Disney princess.
Every single
That's amazing.
All of them.
All at once.
At least 3 for next year.
At least 3.
My story's a little interesting. So I worked at a kids' party place for like 10 years since I was 17. I'm Muslim, Middle Eastern, so my parents were a bit more conservative. They wanted to make sure that my job was something with kids and moms and nothing controversial. Like even waitressing was like controversial. They're like, oh, someone might like slap your ass or something weird. Anyway, so that's how my first job, and that's how I started getting into costuming, is we had to dress up as characters. So I had to dress up as like a pirate or a princess or a mermaid, and that's how I got my introduction into costuming. My first con was Comic-Con, I think in 2013 or 2014. And I remember I went with my ex, and I was looking at people, and everyone was dressed up in a costume. I'm like, oh, are all these people working for companies? You know, and then my boyfriend at that time, he was just like, you know, they're doing it for fun. It's cosplay. So I've been a nerd my whole life, but I wasn't in like a really nerdy environment, so I never knew what cosplay was. I never knew what conventions were. Born and raised in LA, it's kind of wild to like realize that you've never been to a con. So my first cosplay, because I'm psychotic, is Sheik from Legend of Zelda and Smash Brothers. So Smash Brothers is my favorite game. Sheik is my main, and if you look at her costume, her outfit, it's ridiculous. It's like multiple parts and a bodysuit and spandex. So it's like the hardest thing you could probably tackle on as a first-time cosplayer. But that was my first one. I got a lot of attention, and it felt really, really good to be recognized and validated as a nerd. And as a fangirl, and I loved it. Anime Expo was the first time I cosplayed at, and so that was back in the day in 2014, and now Anime Expo is like 3 times as large. But that was my introduction to cosplaying. I do it today and until today because I've been very fierce about women's rights, empowerment, and not just women's rights, but there's a lot of thought process in here, especially in the United States, that are anti-Muslim, anti-Middle Eastern. Everyone looks at us as like, oh, you're in a hijab and you're oppressed and a man's telling you what to do, and that we don't have freedom, that we don't have voice, that we don't have power. And so as a Middle Eastern Muslim woman, I'm like, I want to change that. I want to break that. I want people to know that our women are strong and beautiful and powerful, and if I want to put on a cosplay, I can fucking put on a cosplay and rock it. So that's why I do it.
Well, I think on the segue of that, for the rest of my panelists, what are some either media or real life people representation that inspired you in terms of like your cosplay journey or your nerd journey, that you're just like, wow, I see somebody who's like me, and that's like really, really cool? You can take your time. For me, it was Storm from the X-Men, like OG, like black female superhero. I watched the X-Men cartoon. She had a bunch of storylines that weren't just like she was the sassy one. She had people that she had like one episode she went to a planet and they worshipped her as a queen, and they're like, wow, you're so beautiful and so powerful, please be our queen. Like I didn't see that growing up most of the time. So as like a black woman being like hailed as being beautiful instead of just being like a strong sassy person. So that was truly my first like little segment of being like, wow, that's something that is not part of a stereotype. That's something I could be. That's something I could strive to be. So that was my first one. There's a bunch of others, but I could go on.
For me, it was Brandy and Rodgers and Hammerstein Cinderella.
Oh, yeah.
Seeing her like a black princess twirling around in that sparkly gown, like that for me was just mind-blowing. I actually cosplayed it last year, and that was like the dream come true. And I don't know, just seeing like a black princess was mind-blowing. Like she wasn't just like the ugly stepsister, or she wasn't the maid, or being the sassy token black friend. Like, she was the princess. And seeing that, I don't know, I felt like, well, first of all, I thought I'm gonna wear that one day. But second of all, it was just like, oh, like, I can be a princess too. And then Storm was also one of mine too. But yeah, that was just the mind-blowing moment of, I can be anything, sort of thing.
I think for me, the OG was Princess Jasmine, because my dad is Indian, and so at the time, all the other princesses were like white. Jasmine, she had like, yeah, really, really white. But Jasmine, she had like the thick eyebrows, she had the long black hair, and like, even my basic makeup is like the typical like cat eye that is kind of inherent to Arab and Indian culture. Just a nod to her.
I'm not actually sure. There's so like many different characters that I think I gravitated towards for a while. I think the first one I actually gravitated towards was probably like not a cosplay character. It was like That's So Raven for like a really long time. I've always loved, yeah, exactly. Love Shooter Girls. I know I loved Cinderella for a long time. I was actually thinking about this a while ago. Like, my first favorite Disney princess was always Cinderella, and I never really knew why, because I don't really like care about her story, but it was because it was the Brandy version, because that version is iconic. And right now it's like Allura from Voltron, so it's just kind of like anyone with, I guess, brown skin who doesn't necessarily become a trope, you know, who isn't like the loud black girl, because I'm not a loud black girl, I'm a very quiet black girl. Anyone who kind of just gives me that vibe of like, I don't have to be, I guess, like loud and boisterous and thick thighs save lives to like be relevant or to be wanted, I don't know, be watched or, you know, like cared about. Like I can be kind of like calm in the back and still be cute.
For me, I didn't have any when I entered it, but characters started to appear during my cosplay journey. So I'm sure you guys know Miss Marvel, Camilla Khan. Yeah. So that made me so incredibly happy. And now there's a game I'm kind of obsessed with, Overwatch, and there's Farah and Anna. Like I legitimately cried when Anna became a character. And not this year, but next year's BlizzCon, I plan on cosplaying Farah and my mom as Anna, which would be, that would be amazing. But now coming into being an adult, I'm just so happy that I have figures, you know, I'm obsessed with. Yeah. And then Jasmine, you know, of course. Yeah. Come on. It's my name. All right, so another question for you guys is getting straight into like the nitty gritty. So we are people of color in cosplay. Yes!
Fashionably late to my own panel.
Damn pumpkin.
Queen is never a whole question. Everyone's just early. Exactly.
I'll let you get set up. Take your time. I'm going to pose another question while you get ready. As a person of color in cosplay, what are some difficulties you face with online criticism, which I think is the #1 issue I think we share, and how do you deal with it? How do you deal with the harassment? How do you deal with the negativity? What are some things that people have told you and you know how to respond to, and your future advice for other cosplayers of color?
For me, there's a range of things. It can go from microaggressions to straight up like they're calling you the N-word. So for like more microaggressions, that's kind of like take it inside. If anyone doesn't know microaggressions, they're the kind of thing where like, I don't see you as black, or like you're really well spoken for a black person. Like they don't know that it's racist, but it is. To like straight up like kill all black people. There's a spectrum. So for the more extreme things, I kind of just delete it. Like it's just off my page. Like they don't deserve to have that platform on my page. They can have their own platform, but they're not going to be on my page because my page will not have negativity. And in terms of like more microaggression stuff, I kind of just like try to educate the person and be like, they're like, oh, I've never seen such a good black Catwoman before, or Catwoman's one of the cosplays, and then they instantly think I'm cosplaying the Halle Berry Catwoman, because that's the only other black Catwoman, and I'm just like, oh, I'm not Halle Berry Catwoman, I'm actually original Amy Kami Catwoman, so you kind of have to be like, actually, no. And you can do it in a manner where you're still calm and collected, but they're still being educated, and I feel like education is the best part of like dealing with the smaller issues, and then the bigger issues you have to go a little bit more extreme. That's my usual kind of go-to.
For me, I feel like I've been pretty lucky not to have had anyone come outright and say anything racist on my page or on the internet. But I feel like, well, I don't know, maybe not completely. I posted about Starfire, the Titans version, and I did get a lot of hate about that. But nothing specifically towards me.
Did you post pro?
Yes, I was like this,
Positive,
like stop hating on her and stop being racist towards her. And some guy just chewed me out on Facebook and was like,
Bruh.
yeah, like, boy. But yeah, I feel like seeing it happen to other cosplayers does affect me a lot, because there are times when I don't want to post something because I'm afraid that that backlash is going to find me. Like, it's the internet, it's going to find me one day, and I'm sort of prepared, but I feel like I'm also not prepared for that moment. And so, I don't know, it just affects, it's like an internal thing, like knowing that, oh, not only do I have to deal with racism in my everyday life just being me, but in this hobby that's an escape for me, I may have to also deal with just the worst people. So it's sort of like a creeping internal fear for me right now.
That's
but
an extra layer.
yeah, it makes things difficult, but I know we're a good community, and I'll reach out to my people like for help.
Majority are positive.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, the people who are not positive, they're really, really loud. So
Yeah.
it feels like they're the majority, but they're not.
I think one of my biggest tips or advice that I can give someone who's experiencing backlash or hate on a cosplay picture that they post is, don't feel like you have to defend your decisions against this one person, because you know the reasons you made your decisions. Like, I cosplayed Ariel, and she has like this bright red hair, but I knew that I didn't want to do bright red hair, partially because of my skin tone, and also partially just because I wouldn't ever wear a bright red wig for another cosplay. So I used a dark red wig, and I thought that looked so much better with my skin tone and like in the sunlight. But if I were to ever get someone saying, oh, like, Ariel's hair isn't this dark, I'd be like, well, first of all, she's fictional. Second of all, like, I know why I made my decision. Like, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. And I know it's kind of hard to get yourself in that mindset of it doesn't matter. But reaching out to others, being like, hey, like, I don't know what I should do about this commenter. Like, what should I do? That also helps. Don't stay silent.
So, like I said, I'm a brand new cosplayer, so I haven't gotten any backlash yet, maybe, I don't know.
Which is hopefully not.
Yeah, hopefully not. However, I'm the kind of person who, I'm my own worst critic, so literally no one could ever really tell me like, hey, you did this wrong, or, you know, you should have this color hair. It's like, you didn't pay for it, so I mean, you spent the hours making it. I did. I made my own decisions. I think I'm cute. I don't care what you think. So which is why I plan on being like all the different princesses next year, because I want to be, you know, Belle and Cinderella, and I dare someone to tell me like, you know, this princess isn't black. Like, well, she is now, so I'm gonna deal with that.
And let me tell you, wearing Cinderella over here,
Exactly.
how many comments I've gotten about that.
Yeah.
Cinderella doesn't have brown hair. She has blonde hair.
Well, I do, so.
Exactly. So it's just, I think my own mindset is like, as long as I did my best making whatever cosplay I'm wearing, then I'm always gonna feel proud of it. So yeah, I mean, if I get backlash, you're gonna hear it from me, but I don't think hopefully this should be it.
I think there is a fine line for me personally where you can't really drag the person, because then it's going to reflect on you and stereotype like, oh, you're an angry, you know, like POC, and it's just like, So you have to be assertive, and it really works to be incredibly educated in your response, so they don't have room to really fight back. And you kind of just destroy them with like your intelligence and kindness, yet assertive. You know, so I've gotten a lot of. Marvel featured me as Miss Marvel, and it was while it was super honoring, the comments were dragging me left and right for all sorts of things. Marvel's becoming SJW, which if you don't know what that means social justice warrior. Oh, this is not even a hero, and who is this? And so many comments about my weight because I'm a thicker girl, and it's nonstop. But you just have to be able to respond to different comments with. So the SJW comments, you'd be able to respond with, you know, no, this is a character and a figure, and Marvel celebrates diversity. Not all heroes are white. And you have to be able to answer back in a right way and educate the person. Another issue is when people, and we'll get into this later, when people blackface and brownface, and I see a lot of Princess Jasmine cosplayers, and they go from white to brown, and it's just like, did you just put on a ton of bronzer for this cosplay? And they would answer yes, and what's the problem, you know? And then you have to be able to educate them and tell them what the problem is, and I'm sure that's something that we're going to discuss later, because that's a whole nother conversation. I could probably write a master's thesis on why that's a problem. But I think being assertive and kind is good to reflect positively on your race when someone is trying to negatively speak of it. That's my personal viewpoint.
Oh, so I know I just got here. Sorry about that. LA traffic. I don't live here. Oh, I got here like 5 minutes ago.
Okay.
Our princesses are.
What have you guys talked about so far? I heard the negative aspects of being, like negative things that you've heard being a person of color in social media.
We had our intros, and we had what got us into cosplay, how long we've been cosplaying, and I think you were here. I don't think you were. We discussed like what character inspired. Thank you. Inspired our cosplay.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, Moana inspired me. She's my favorite Disney princess.
What's your name?
Excuse me. My name is Tisha. I'm otherwise known as Tisharific. I've been cosplaying for 7 years. I'm local to Los Angeles area. My first con was Anime Expo in 2011. I love like cosplaying from different cartoons, and I love anime too, but always like the cartoons and Disney animations. And
oh yeah, I'm Queen Sasker Cosplay. Sorry, I'm supposed to be the host of all this thing. I do have a question to ask you guys, because I had a couple of them. So, what was the first time you realized that representation in media matters to you? So I know for me, I'm gonna kind of split it off, but like my mom is Pacific Islander, and she went and saw the movie Moana, and so, of course, and sat there, and I see the look on her face as she started crying, because she was like, this is me, this is my heritage, this is my home. I can see aspects of when I used to live back in Fiji in this movie, and it meant so much to her, and I was like, this right here, this is what matters. It's getting all of these different cultures and seeing them on the big screen. That's my story with you guys. Whatever.
well, I'm not sure like what specific like thing that maybe just like growing up watching cartoons. I always noticed that like the black characters or like the people of color characters are always like relegated to the side roles. You would never see them like being the main character. It's really rare. And just like growing up, I just wanted to see more people who look like me leading the whole show in movies.
For me, I mean, honestly, I think the Black Lives Matter movement helped me the most, just because as a person of color, you tend to what's the word I'm looking for? You tend to get closer to other people of color, especially in LA, and seeing their movement and seeing them empower themselves and bring themselves to power. And when Obama became president, I started to realize that I matter. I'm not just a minority, and Black people made it for themselves. And hopefully, there'll be a time where Muslim and Arabs are able to stand up proud too. And for me, when that started to happen, I know it's more political than nerdy, but when that started to happen, I started to see other things pave way. I started to see other people demand people like the Scarlett Johansson, and you know, everyone got upset. Exactly. And when people got upset that they didn't have, you know, Asian representation for Asian roles, and when Black Panther came out, I cried because I was in actually I was in Oakland when I saw that movie, and the movie opens in Oakland, and everyone was screaming, and it just feels so fucking good, like just to see representation come alive in front of you, and you feel good as another person who has been, you know, a minority their whole life, to see others come into themselves, you know, come into, you know, being proud of themselves and getting that representation is so important. So, you know, to live vicariously through the Black Lives Matter, to see that happen, to now see movies like Aladdin, and everyone is insisting, everyone was insisting for the live action that we have Middle Eastern actors. So for me, that made me happy, because I'm like, wow, you guys, like, everyone recognized we're not just, you know, terrorists, which is all we've been identified as. So that is what it was for me.
For me, I also concur with all of that, but what really like hit me close to home was seeing younger, like the younger generation, like kids, when I'm in cosplay, come up to me, and then be like, wow, it's so-and-so, and then just like, because they see that, and it's just one, like, humbling, because then they think that you're that character, and it's great. And like, there's this one girl, I don't want to sound like humble bragging, but there's this one girl, she's been a fan of mine for recently, and she took one of my cosplay prints and put it and gave it to like her like first grade presentations when they're trying to do their heroes.
Oh my God.
It's just like, I really like Jade Valkyrie. She does a lot of really cool cosplays, and like I think that she's really nice. And she helped me out at LA Comic Con, and her mom messaged me on Instagram, and I was literally crying because I was just like, I couldn't see myself being somebody that people would like, you know, care about, relate to, or like little kids being like, wow, this is somebody really cool. And now she cosplays. She has a really cute little katana, and her family, I don't know if you've seen their family, the mom dresses up as Sub-Zero, I believe. No, the dad dresses up as Sub-Zero. The mom's Raiden, and the little kid's Scorpion, and she's like the little katana. Their family's amazing, but she's just like, well, I can do a costume like Jade, and I'm like, this is so cute. I was crying.
So she didn't only get into it, she got her whole family into it.
Yes.
Wow.
I think the family was like kind of into it, and then like the kid was kind of like pushed them a little bit further into it. But because she saw that, it was like, wow, this is so cool, and I can do it. So just like knowing that this me existing and then being out there, like, had an effect on somebody else, and had an effect on how like a little girl saw herself, and that even if that's just the only person that I've done that to, I feel like I've done something, and that's when I know that representation is like really key, and it does work. And I hope that other cosplayers and other cartoon characters do that for little kids, because they're the future. So that was really nice.
For me, I'm not sure if there's like a specific moment I can pinpoint it at, but I feel like through the help of the good old internet, just seeing, like, I guess it's like an ongoing thing, but every time I see like a photo of a little kid like looking at a movie poster or dressed as a character from this movie coming out, and it's like a little POC little kid, and they're like, look at Coco, like, I see me in that, or look at Black Panther, like,
Or the kid who can recite the entire Baku speech
That
for
kid.
challenge day.
that kid's great.
Nice kid.
Oh my god. But yeah, just seeing like the smiles on their faces when they realize, like, when they see themselves in areas that they don't see themselves in often, or only see themselves in negative light, just the looks on their faces are just so beautiful. I don't know, when I see that, I'm just like, this is exactly why, like, representation matters, and people of color have been saying this for centuries, and I'm hoping people are seeing it more, especially like with the Black Panther craze took over the world. But yeah, this is why I do what I do, for the little kids, the children. So representation matters.
I have to agree. I think there wasn't just one specific moment. It was like little things over the years, like when I was a kid, seeing Princess Jasmine and being like, oh, I look like her. watching even Jessica Jones and being like, oh, she has hairy arms like me, because I don't want to shave my arms. I know other people do. It's so much effort. Like, like seeing like, oh, she's hairy arms and like these big dark circles that never go away. Knowing that our new Wonder Woman is #Jewish, that was like big, and I was like, oh, she's Jewish, I'm Jewish. Just like the little things that kind of that like catch your eye, and you're like, oh, this wasn't like that before, but now it's like this.
So for me, there were two. One was Zendaya as Rocky in Shake It Up Chicago, or Shake It Up. Oh yeah, what that show was called. Like her first Disney Channel show, because she was a little black girl who was a vegetarian and a nerd, and I was that too, and I'm still kind of that now. And just seeing that as a character, because I'm sure she, I think she kind of got judged a little bit for being like that vegetarian who just like wants to save all the animals, and I kind of got that too a little bit, because black people eat a bunch of meat, and I'm just there at all these family gatherings like, yeah, I'll just have the salad. I'll eat the bread and the mashed potatoes and the everything else that you didn't put bacon in, which is everything. And so like that was like really important for me. The other one was Tiana. Like when they announced that they were gonna have a black Disney princess, I was just so excited. She's gorgeous. I love her. She has the most outfits out of all the Disney princesses, and she wasn't human for very long, so I find that like really inspiring. I too need to own a lot of clothes. So just like having that representation over the years I feel like very fortunate for it, and I know that since there's more representation now, like I feel so happy that children, like young children, are growing up where women are superheroes and black women are superheroes and black people and Asian people, like they're all like, there's more diversity now, and they get to grow up with that the same way I sort of was beginning to, like how I got to grow up with President Obama being my president for most of my life. So like this whole Trump switch is like so new to me. I'm like, what is this?
I'm sorry.
So it's just, I don't know, I feel fortunate now to have more representation. I feel like there's always that one person in the back, that like one quote-unquote white person who's just like, why do you need this one character to be black? It's like, you'll never know what it's like to have all these characters not look at you look like you for your entire life. Like, everyone has always looked like you. You've lived in a world where your world has looked like you. And so it's like changing for us now. It's like, this world is starting to look like all of us now, not just all the white people with blonde hair and Scarlett Johansson's.
Scarlett Johansson is a Asian woman.
It's not all Scarlett Johansson and Matt Damon, who knew?
So, I mean, you heard it here. Everybody has their experiences. They talk about, like, what goes on with them, things that matter to them. So, most of you are primarily on social media, yeah?
Yeah, of course.
And we talked about the negative comments that you get on social media. What does it feel like to have to fight that? How do you go about talking to people who seem like you're just talking to a wall, especially about such they are political issues, but such big issues that are just about you, and they're not like, it's not like, how do I describe it? It's just your life, and it's who you are and how you go about your daily life. It's not something that you ask for, it's just who you are, and they want to fight you on it. What are things that go through your mind when that happens? What advice do you have? We're gonna go back this way, so you can start.
Okay, so like I said, I haven't gotten any backlash because of my cosplay at all. The one time I think I got into like a fight online was like some old white guy, and he was like, you're racist because you think white people are racist, and racism isn't like legal. I'm like, do you even know what you're talking about? Like, racism was literally part of the law. Like, slavery was a thing. Like, I don't know what America you live in, but it's not this one. So yeah, I haven't personally gotten any backlash. I was waiting for it yesterday because I took a picture of Kimberly Brooks and she posted it on her page, and I was just waiting for like. Thank you. I was just waiting for like that one person to be like, she's not a pretty Laura or something, like some 12-year-old nerd just like to say something weird. But it didn't happen. I've gotten to a couple like conversations with people just about like blackface, and some people don't get it. I don't know why, because we're all explaining it. We're all explaining it in perfect English, like why blackface is an issue, but people aren't getting it. So that's like my only experience with backlash. It hasn't been personal yet.
I'm, again, like I said, I'm fortunate enough to not have experienced any backlash yet, but I wonder, because in some of my pictures, like, high exposure kind of makes you look whiter. So part of you is like, because I look white? Like, and on one hand, that'd be kind of funny, but like, also it's kind of strange, like, because I have a brother who is also half Indian, of course, and he's like so much darker, and I'm like wondering if he were to have kind of the same social media platform as I did, what he would be facing.
Same for me. Also, I haven't experienced any personal backlash. I think my biggest fight was the guy over the Starfire post I made on my Facebook page, and it's just so frustrating because it's like talking to a wall, and I don't know, like people say like don't feed the trolls, like don't talk back, but you just can't help but just be like, listen, like first of all, like I just want to like tell you because maybe like I think like I'll get through to this person, like I never do, but I'm still gonna fight them and try to let them know like, hey, Starfire is not white, she's an orange alien, she can literally be anyone. It doesn't make sense. I don't know, it's just, it gets frustrating after doing it over and over and over, and like as a POC, this is just like your whole life just explaining like why I deserve to be treated like a human being, and it gets frustrating because Google is free 99, and it's just
Why is blackface bad?
right, like in 2 seconds, like I need you to start paying me for this education I'm giving you. Like it just doesn't make sense. Like it's 2018, the internet exists, you can't even like use, oh, I live in like a small little town as an excuse anymore, because you can literally talk to anybody on the internet and be like, hey, tell me about why the way I'm thinking is just absolutely wrong. So it just gets frustrating, but you have to keep up the fight, I guess, but I don't even know.
Like I said earlier, Instagram and Facebook, delete, I don't care. I mean, I do care, but like not enough for them to be like on my page because I don't want that on there. I'm on Twitter, on the other hand, people who casually use hands. Like for real. I guess the most like remarkable one was about blackface, and someone was just like, but what about reverse racism? What about the people who you dress up as She-Hulk and you're green? I'm just like, there's literally no one who's green. Like, it's just, so like there's a couple like back and forth, but like once again the community, majority of the community agrees, and it's just like this is fine. So not only did I reply, of just being like, yo, when have people of color ever oppressed white people? When have they ever done the transatlantic slave trade and all those other things, like historical facts? And then of course a couple other people in the community were also like replying, being like, yo, man, like WTF, what are you talking about? So that helps, but most of the time it's just more of like a delete situation because they just want attention and they're not going to get it from me.
I was literally just in a Twitter fight yesterday.
Twitter is like
I showed you guys. I had to deal with a popular streamer and cosplayer and saying that taping your eyes back is not racist, and I'm like, oh. I really don't know where you came from to like say that. But it was an interesting conversation, but I'm not going to reflect on that. That was a whole other issue in itself. But I'm tired. I'm just tired. I hit 30 this year. Go me. I officially said like my